Good morning, everyone. This is Sid with SVTPerformance.com, and I've got another Bronco review / features inspection video for you. This time, it's on this very nice Bronco Everglades edition. This is the first time I've got to spend any real time with an Everglades Bronco. I don't think I've ever seen another one on the road. And since I have it, I just brought the Raptor out for you to see sort of the difference in the stance between kind of a loaded up squatch Bronco and the Raptor. I mean, the Raptor is almost a completely different vehicle. You can see how much wider it is. The stance is so much different. It's taller, everything. I mean, it's sitting in a hole and it's almost taller than this Sasquatch equipped four-door Everglades. But the Everglades package is pretty neat for what you get. You get this very, very nice worn winch here on the front. This is a really good unit. I've got a couple different worn winches on other vehicles, trailers, projects, and things like this. This is a very nice one, especially like this synthetic line. And you got this, it's not a roller lead on the front, but it is a very nice aluminum piece. The only problem with this is I'm not 100% sure how the finishes will hold up if this thing is outside or used and abused a lot. Just seems like it may fade and everything, but right now it looks fantastic. Huge forged hook on the front. And it comes with a very, very nice trigger assembly. This is way nicer than the worn winches that I have on my stuff. Of course, mine have like cables and things like that. That's a very nice unit. You got these wheels, which I think look really good. They're sort of a plain wheel. It looks almost like a steel wheel, like an old style military wheel or something you would see on like an old Kaiser truck or something like that. But updated for modern times. I think it looks really good. It's shod with the Goodyear Territory MTs. I am not a fan of these tires. I think they look decent. They look like the old Turf Tamer ATV tires, but on the road, I'm just not a fan. I think there's better choices. The BFGs on the Raptor, I think handle better or quieter and everything. Of course, they're not quite as aggressive as these, but I don't know, I guess I'm just a Nitto fan. Now, of course, the standout feature on the Everglades Edition Bronco is, besides the wading Sasquatch in the water here, is the snorkel. And the snorkel's a pretty nice molded piece. It's bolted onto the window frame here for the windshield. And I think it looks pretty good, and you can configure it a couple different ways. So we've got the open grid plate here for the air to just go straight in the front, maybe get sort of a ram air effect as you're going down the road. You know, probably not a lot, but it could possibly help. But it's got 3 bolts here. You can undo this, take this plate off, and swap it around on the back side for this blanked off plate. You put the blanked off one on the front and then start pulling your air from the back side here. And I have a suspicion that if you do that, or possibly add another plate on both sides, it probably would lose some efficiency if the air would just go straight through going down the road. But if you had the open plate on this side, I imagine you'll hear some sweet turbo noises from the passenger seat. So pretty neat design. I think it looks pretty good. We have these running boards where you can remove these sections, just held on with a couple bolts here. And then it's sort of like a little rock rail type situation you've got after you remove that. These are pretty nice. I like them. I like the fact that they're easy to take off if you just want the clean look. But if you got knee problems or something like that, these are pretty nice to help you get inside. Speaking of inside, this one's sort of base, kind of the way I like it. Got the marine vinyl seats. I think they look pretty good in sort of a two-tone gray. I think that's a really good looking seat. Vinyl floor, the way I like it. This particular one doesn't have floor mats in it. Not sure why, but in my opinion, if you're ordering a Bronco, definitely get the vinyl floor. Got sort of the green accents on the handles here. I like that. I think that looks good. And they tied in and use sort of gray cording on the top here. I'm surprised they didn't make that green as well. Gray dash, but pretty nice inside. Let the camera catch up here. Oh, you can see. The rest of it's pretty much as you'd expect. As sound deadening headliner. Does have the racks on the top, which I am not a huge fan of. I mean, it looks okay, but Every Bronco I've ever been in that has these has significantly more wind noise than the ones without. So, and I mean, it's not just like a little bit. You can tell a big difference when these things are installed versus not installed. They definitely create some wind noise. But if you're gonna have a bunch of junk on the top of your vehicle, you're gonna have wind noise anyway. So that's the sacrifice you'll have. If you've got a use for it, by all means, put it to work. Out back, it's basically just like we've come to expect. Same deal with every other Bronco. We got the bags for the tops in here. Vinyl floor, all that good stuff. But I think what I want to do is pop the hood and show you guys how that Snorkel works. Yeah, inside, as you've come to expect. So let me get the hood popped and show you guys what I'm talking about under there. So we have the hoods popped, and of course the first thing you're going to notice, regular Bronco, you're going to have a prop rod. You're not going to have that on the Raptor. But here's how that Snorkel comes in through the fender right here and comes into the top of the airbox. And this thing is sealed up in here. It's a really nice looking airbox, good size, and instead of being held on with clips, the top is actually bolted on with these little Torx drive fasteners. But this is a really nice setup to get fresh air from the outside into the engine. Speaking of engine, for some reason somebody spec'd this one with an automatic and a 2.3 liter 4-cylinder EcoBoost. And I like this engine, but in this particular application, you're slinging around a lot of weight with the 4-cylinder. I think the 2.7 would be the better choice here. Like I said, I like this engine. It just sounds angry driving this thing around. You know, it's actually, you can hear it putting in a lot more work than say the honking 3-liter in the Raptor. But in my opinion, as much as I've enjoyed this engine in vehicles in the past, I think the only reason to get this in a Bronco is if you're backing it up with a manual transmission and you're forced to get the 4-cylinder. Otherwise, I would definitely go for the bigger V6. I do appreciate that it's kind of easier to get the stuff. I know it looks like a spaghetti monster on top of this, but when you compare it to, say, any of the V6 Broncos, I mean, Bronco Raptor's pretty bad. I mean, look at all this, just stuff everywhere on top of this. And in some ways, the 2.7 liter EcoBoost is even worse because there's an EGR cooler and some stuff like that that the 3-liter doesn't get. Of course, the 2.3 does have a little EGR cooler buried in there, and every time I see that thing, I have cold sweats and night terrors thinking of 6-liter Power Strokes because it looks way too much like that old 6-liter EGR cooler. But the engine itself's very similar to the old Mustang 2.3 liter. I made a ton of power with one of those things and enjoyed it for many miles. This one, you're going to be limited on your tuning. A lot of stuff is coming out now for it, but I know Livernois has tunes for it. I'm pretty sure SCT does now. There's a lot of stuff out there. Whippled, of course, does. We have the Whipple tunes on the Bronco Raptor. The more custom tuning you can get on this, the better. It increases drivability. The automatic transmission, of course, it has the 10R60 and it has 10R shifting. If you guys have driven any of the 10R60, 10R80 transmissions, or have seen any of my reviews, you've heard me complain about just weird shifting issues and stuff like that. I haven't really had the weird shifting issues, but I've definitely had some soft shifts, and you just know if you've driven something that has been custom tuned to have that shift go quicker. Maybe it's a little bit more harsh, but just who cares? I want the performance feel. And you get back into something that's tuned very softly, it's just mashed potato transmission feeling. I don't know how to describe it other than that. If you've never driven a very nicely tuned, custom tuned 10R transmission equipped vehicle, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go find a buddy that has one to let you drive it, or at least let you take a ride with him. It's worth it. Everything's better tuned. Of course, you got your blow-off valve here, turbo down here, coolant bottle over there, windshield washer fluid here. And I want to talk one last thing about a big difference between this Bronco and the Bronco Raptor here under the hood, and this translates into one of the biggest driving differences that I've experienced between this Sasquatch and the Raptor. And you don't realize how good you have it in the Raptor until you get back into one of these. This thing has vacuum boosted brakes. And if you are used to the brakes in a Raptor, which are electric over hydraulic boosting, this thing, the brakes feel so much better and it stops so much more confidently. I can't even tell you. I mean, you can see it doesn't look anything like this over here. The brakes feel spongy. You have to really get on them to stop. And it is just not confidence inspiring in this. I mean, they work. I haven't rear-ended anyone yet in it. I've been able to stop every time I want to. It's a huge difference in pedal feel and how much pedal you have to apply to get the desired braking effect versus that. When you're used to that, I mean, this thing, for what it is, stops on a dime. This, you know, you've got to pay a little bit of attention. But that brings me sort of to the driving part of this. I'm not going to do a full driving review on this because I have driven so many different iterations of Broncos with basically the same suspension, Wildtraks and whatnot. I've driven them 4-cylinder Broncos. All that is still applicable to this. The Everglades package is more just the winch and running boards and snorkel and things like that. Driving dynamics wise, it drives the same as every other Sasquatch Bronco that I've driven. So if you're interested in that, go back on the channel. We've got a lot of really good full reviews. But driving versus the Raptor, I haven't really talked about that. It's night and day. So before, I guess I just needed a refresher of getting in, you know, a standard model of Bronco versus a Raptor, of how much better the Raptor is. Driving the Raptor R a few weeks ago versus a regular Raptor is not as big a difference as going from a Bronco Raptor to any Sasquatch Bronco or anything, or even non-Sasquatch Bronco. This is a huge difference in driving dynamic. Not only do you have way more power, of course this is the 4-cylinder, even if this was the V6, this has way more power. It steers better, it brakes better, it handles better, it rides better. It's just better all around. It's also, I don't know, $20,000 more than what it would cost to get into one of these. It might actually be more than that now. I'm not sure what this one costs the way it's outfitted. I didn't get the paperwork with it when I picked it up. But I would imagine it's in the 50s somewhere to get an Everglades like this, even without floor mats and carpet and V6 and things like that. This is still an expensive package because you're getting, I mean, that winch is not cheap. So final thoughts on this Bronco Everglades edition. I really like it. I think it's a nice package. Personally, I don't really see myself needing the snorkel. I don't do a lot of deep water fording, but it is hurricane season here in South Carolina, so you never know, that might eventually come in handy. I do really like the wheels. The graphics are pretty nice. I like the interior, especially with matching with this color. I think it looks really, really good. The winch is a very nice feature. Personally, I would like one of these things in a 2-door with a stick shift. I think that would be the ultimate combination. But you can get that, you know, in any flavor of Bronco trim level you want, except of course Raptor. But it makes me really appreciate the driving dynamics of the Raptor even more. But there's nothing wrong with this, especially if you like doing like tight mountainous trails like I do. That's why I'd like a 2-door version of this thing. It's so much narrower than the Raptor. I mean, this thing is difficult to find a lot of trails and stuff that you can actually take it on. This is much more accessible. Like, you can go many more places, especially in a 2-door model. So I think I'm going to leave it there. That's the configuration I would want, 2-door stick shift. Other than that, this thing looks really nice. I like the simple wipeout vinyl interior like we ordered on our Raptor. It could definitely use a tune, and if you're getting a 4-door and an automatic, definitely get the V6. If you're getting an automatic in general, get the V6. It's a very nice upgrade over the 4-cylinder. Nothing wrong with the 4-cylinder. It's a fine engine. It's not, you're giving up a lot of power and you're not really gaining any fuel mileage or anything. This thing still averaged 18, 19 miles per gallon, and we average 18 miles per gallon in the Raptor. So like half the power you're for maybe 1 mile per gallon. It's not worth it. Get the V6 unless you get the stick shift, and then you're awesome. That's the way I'd do it. So hope you guys found this informative. I've really enjoyed my time with the Everglades Bronco. Just enjoy my Bronco Raptor even more. So I don't know, this is weird, it's turning into a Bronco channel, but it is what it is. That's what we have to play around with now. We're gonna get more into the SVT stuff a little bit later on in the year. I think I'm gonna get my Lightning out and play with it some, show you guys that. But if you like that kind of stuff, subscribe to the channel. If you want some sweet SVTP merch, we have some new stuff coming up in the store. Links in the description below where you can order all that. As always, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. We're coming up on 20,000-ish members. I would really like to hit like 25,000 before the end of the year. I mean, that's not too lofty of a goal, I don't think. And it's not like I do this YouTube thing as like a full-time job. This is just me walkie-talkie, you know, hey, look at this car, it's neat. Full-time, you guys probably don't even know what I do as a full-time job, but it's pretty far removed from playing with Bronco Raptors. But hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you next time.